So let's start the community meeting. Today is February 9, 22-23. Please don't say nothing that you don't like to be in the internet for all posterity. Remember that we upload the video, but please feel free to engage and to share all your inputs that are very valuable for us. So let's start. I think the first thing that we usually do is new face. I don't know if it has any new face here that you'd like to introduce yourself. Has
Hey,
any?
hello. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm Pratik Mota, and I'm from India, and currently I'm a Golang C++ developer. So I have previously used the Operator SDK for creating CRDs. So right now I'm here to learn the Kubebuilder and also contributing it. So yeah, right now I'm reading its documentation. So yeah, looking forward to work with you as a
That is
community.
that is great. You are very welcome, and definitely your help is more than welcome. Please feel free. That is good for everybody knows as well. Feel free to jump in any issue that is open in the
Sure.
repository. We have the label good first issue, something like that.
Yeah.
That are good ones. Also, feel free to jump in the channel and ask help. Everybody will be pleased and try to help anyone that would like to contribute with the project.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Have you any other person? No? So let's move forward. Office hours, community interest. First one is Bryce. Bryce, please feel free.
Yeah, so mine is a controller runtime specific thing. That issue there is a proposal issue for creating a new cache implementation in controller runtime for gracefully handling RBAC changes. And so kind of what that means is it would be a caching layer that is like highly configurable in a sense that you can um, dynamically add and remove your watches in and handle RBAC changes. So currently, what would happen if, say, you have certain permissions on your controller, and you go and your controller is running on cluster, and then a cluster admin says, "Oh, hey, I don't want this controller to have these permissions anymore." What'll happen is it will likely just crash and start logging a whole bunch of errors and enter a blocking loop. And kind of the goal with this proposal is that we would now have a caching layer that enables operator authors to write their controllers in such a way that it can handle changes in RBAC. So, for example, say I have a controller that's reconciling the foo CR, and what it does when it reconciles that foo CR is it creates a secret and a deployment in the namespace that the foo CR is in. Um, if a cluster admin is okay with that uh, that controller having full permissions to create, read, get, list, watch, whatever secrets and deployments it wants across the cluster, that's awesome. They can allow that. Or if they only want it to be able to do that in namespaces like foo and bar, um, it will, the controller can say, okay, I'm not allowed to, if a foo CR is created in namespace Baz, I'm not allowed to actually create secrets or deployments in that namespace. So what I'll do is I'll update that foo CR status saying, hey, I don't have the proper permissions to operate in that namespace instead of crashing. So therefore, it's more like gracefully handling, permission changes in RBAC and stuff like that. There's really a lot more to it, and there's a lot that is going on. Like there's a lot more information in this proposal and in a comment later down in the proposal, that if people want to get more insight into it, am happy to have that discussion on the issue. If anyone wants to discuss it here, I'm happy to discuss it here as well, and just get people's thoughts and opinions and see if this is something that the community feels would be really nice to have in controllers or not. And if anyone has any specific questions, definitely feel free to ask, and I'll answer them the best I can right now.
Would someone like to raise any question to Bryce about his proposal?
Sorry for being late. Maybe I missed it, but I'm trying to understand the use case and the problem, because that looks like a very big potential PR. So like, what is the use case?
Yeah, so the use case here is, it's making operators and controllers become workloads that are able to be kind of scopable in their permissions. So, if you think about a lot of like industries like banking or, even potentially government and stuff like that, where they're industries that and organizations that require like high level of security on their clusters, operators in their current state can be kind of concerning for them, because a lot of times when you go to install an operator, they'll be asking for cluster-wide access to certain resources. And if a cluster admin does not want that, there's no real way that they're pretty much having to decide between installing this operator or controller or actually, keeping their cluster more secure. And so this kind of targets the ability to make these workloads, their permissions scopable like other Kubernetes workloads.
So maybe for what I know, currently we support scoped operators. So like, what is the challenge with the current implementation?
So
maybe
I
I
think the
understood
challenge,
it wrong, right?
yeah, so currently the challenge with the current implementation is that you can really only scope it down to like a certain number of namespaces. And then it's kind of like the operator or controller has to have those dedicated permissions in those namespaces. And if those permissions are removed, then the controller will start crashing or entering a blocking state and no longer be able to function properly. So if a cluster admin, changes their mind on the permissions that they want this controller to have, they either have to completely reconfigure and restart the controller or operator so that it runs with those new permissions, or just be okay with it crashing. This proposal kind of makes it so that those changes can be a little bit more dynamic by just using the Kubernetes native RBAC controls.
So what's so bad with it crashing, right? If you change the configuration, like for me, that sounds like, it's your problem. If you are tampering with the solution, right, it will crash and then you'll have to fix it. Like, because this kind of change is basically breaking the current API and it's complexing stuff. So how big is the problem in order for us to introduce this huge change? And it's not only breaking the system, it's also having someone invest the time. Maybe you volunteer, I'm not sure, but someone needs to invest the time to build it, right? So is it big enough? Is it critical enough? How can we accumulate the size of the problem?
Just
Yeah,
one
so I
more.
mean,
Bryce, before you answer, after you answer, I think we have 2 peoples in the queue. So, but you can come back in the round afterwards, Almog, just to give opportunity for
Sorry.
the others as well. But go forward, Bryce, answer that, and the next one I think is Michael.
yeah, so just for some perspective, I'm a maintainer of the operator SDK and Kubebuilder. And in the operator SDK, there's been a couple issues raised regarding, like I want to make it so that my operator can be restricted to only watch or receive stuff like information on secrets in a specific namespace. But I want it to be able to operate, like I want that to be able to be configurable and the operator not crash if a cluster admin wants to, enable more namespaces that it can watch. And so essentially asking kind of for this functionality, but they kind of scoped it down to, one specific use case. But the goal of this proposal is to make it more broad and make that kind of functionality available for all controllers. And really, it just ends up making the controllers more resilient. So in the end, using this approach, you're building, a more resilient and robust controller that is able to handle those changes. And basically just says, hey, if I don't have the permissions to operate in this namespace, I'm just going to update the CR status and say I don't have those permissions. Um, and it really gives some of that power towards the cluster admins to say, hey, I know that the operator is asking for these certain permissions, but I really don't feel comfortable allowing those permissions on my cluster for namespace XYZ, but really am okay with it being in ABC because I've allocated, namespaces ABC to being less secure or what have you. But hopefully that answers your question some. Definitely, like Camille said, feel free to jump back in the queue if you have more questions on it. And also, I don't know, Camilla, how long we want to time box this conversation to, because I know there's other things on the agenda too. So
Sure, let's give it the chance for the others as well. And then we maybe time box. Go for it, Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, like I've run into this too. I think Bryce's example is a great one. It's just if you have a cluster scoped operator, because customer or someone else wants to be able to reconcile a custom resource in cluster wide, but the operator needs to like read a secret, as was mentioned, from one specific namespace. The kind of the only way that works today that I'm aware of is if you give the reconciler an API reader, like a client reader, which just bypasses the cache. So I can I can see the use case, but I can't really speak to like the impact or how much work, like kind of other questions that Mark raised.
yeah, and I'll just also I think Michael, you made me think of something that one of the other possible scenarios with a controller, implemented in the current pattern is, um, it may hard code certain things in there and therefore not be configurable at all by a cluster admin that maybe wants to change those permissions. And while that might be a bad practice, it's something that could exist out there, and something that should be, could be combated against with something like this. And also the goal is to try to focus on, um, however this is implemented, whenever it is implemented, if it's implemented in controller runtime, or if it ends up being, I see the value in this and I do it myself in my own repo and maintain it as a library. The goal is to make it as easy to adopt as possible on the operator author or controller author side of things, with the goal of it being pretty much just a plug-in replacement for, or like a drop-in replacement for current cache implementations. That's the end goal, in terms of like difficulty for adopting it. Obviously, difficulty for implementing it is a different story, but I've worked on a couple different proof of concepts and have links to proof of concepts and examples, like an example operator implementing that proof of concept in that proposal issue.
I think the next person is Varsha.
Yeah, I won't take much of time, but I understand where Bryce is coming from based on the use case. I haven't taken a look at the POC which you had, Bryce, but I just wanted to bring up yet another PR which I've been following. So that allows to start and stop the watches and the controller on runtime. Probably that could be helpful. The only thing is, again, though it allows to start and stop the watches, it is something which can't be done dynamically. Uh, the user has to still pass on a cancelled context through the manager. So that I don't have the open PR. It was created by someone else. I just attached the link to it in the chat. So probably that would be a great idea to get started with, because there have been discussions on how to actually remove objects from the cache, because stopping and starting controller is still fine, but removing objects from cache and is one major task which is being discussed. So if the POC which you have created has that implemented and that somehow can be used in this area, then that would be really great. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
I think all points are valid, right? I think the next step here is like, I think that is the idea of the Bryce, right? Bring his idea to this meeting, bring visibility to his proposal. So I would recommend, like, folks, everybody that is interested in this subject, go there, check the issue, check the information and the POC that he made as well, and make all questions, challenge him there, and he brought more light in the discussion. Is that okay? Could you agree on that and move forward?
Yep. Yeah. And thanks for saying all that, Camilla. Yeah. Like Camilla said, just, please feel free to go to that proposal issue and leave your feedback. Happy to continue discussion there. And it's really what I'm hoping for is having, a nice big discussion there in that issue, talking about all the pros, cons, and whether or not this is something that is really useful. So thanks, everyone.
Another thing that I'd like just to share is, I think in Controller-Runtime, it's not very common. They do design proposals, pull requests with the design proposals. But if you see that you get too much stuck, like to share the use case, right? To properly communicate the information that you want, maybe that can be a good strategy. Just to push a proposal, I send EP for that. Maybe that should bring more light for what you want to achieve. Just an idea, if you get stuck. So let's move forward. Welcome, you are welcome. I think the next one is Maggie. I don't know if I properly say your name.
Yes, that's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. This is about moving the declarative plugin out of Kubebuilder into Kubebuilder declarative pattern repository and basically making it an external plugin. So I have been looking into this in the past 2 weeks. I kind of hit a blocking issue at the moment. It's basically related to how the plugin would check if the project is using a legacy layout or not. That check is currently done in a way that it will basically just look into the plugin chain. If Golang v2 or Golang v3 are there, then the project is using a legacy layout. Otherwise, it's not. And based on that, it's going to be doing the scaffolding accordingly. So this is currently possible when using the declarative plugin internally as a built-in plugin to Kubebuilder, because basically we inject config. But if it's an external plugin, the config is just lost in that call. We don't really pass that information in the plugin request. So making that check is kind of not feasible, specifically in the init command. So that's one issue there. The second issue is also related to this. I was looking into using maybe the project file to kind of figure out whether the project is built on a legacy layout or not. The issue is that the project file, I believe it's something that gets only created after all the scaffolding is done in the init command. So it's also not an approach that I think can be taken here to fix this problem. Yes, I guess that's the issue that I had here so far. So I was wondering if I could maybe get some like feedback or workaround about this.
So let's just see if I could properly summarize the blockers that you have now, right? The first
Right.
one, you are having problem to read the project config, because as a external plugin, you are saying that you don't have the project config.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, but the external plugin also will be used with Kubebuilder, right? That is the idea, has the interface and you need to implement the same interface. You have the contract, right? So the project config is a contract. What you can do is like, but you could also, let me know if I'm wrong, Bryce, and I don't know if Hashim is here as well. One thing that you could do in this external plugin is like, if the project config is not defined, then you do the scaffold like Go V3, for example. That is something just for we are able to scaffold without find the information, right? You define the full behavior when the project config is not found, and you warning the user to work like a standalone plugin, right?
Okay.
That is one idea.
So I think what the core problem here is, and Mehdi, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but so the external plugin has a interface that is supposed to contain what's called like the universe, like the plug, like the universe of files. And I think what the problem that's being run into here is that currently, whenever an external plugin is called, that universe is empty, and really it should be filled by all the files that are supposed to be created in the file system by the plugin chain. So even if this is chained with like the regular Go v3 scaffold and stuff like that, and then you chain in this external plugin, that universe of files that are created from previous plugins in the chain isn't actually properly updated, and it is always empty. And I believe that's a bug, and is something that we need to think about. How do we take that plugin chain file system and add it to that universe so that when an external plugin is called in that chain, it's able to read that? Because I think Mehdi made a Slack post about this issue, and we had some comments back and forth. And that was like the biggest problem, is like they were trying to use it in this, like they were testing it in this plugin chain. And then, because the files aren't actually created on the file system until the plugin chain is done, and all those files are created in like the universe, and then they're scaffolded out on the actual like user file system. They're like, the project file was never there when they attempted to look for the project file.
Can I make a question? So like if you call Kubebuilder init, Kubebuilder, and then you scaffold Go V3 first, then you call the declarative afterwards as a external plugin, then the universe is filled with the config. The problem is like if I want to call Go V3 and the external plugin to do the scaffold. Because then
Even if you do it,
in the
even if
chain.
even if you do it the way you said it, it doesn't populate that. But
Right.
so in that scenario, what you would, in my opinion, what you would do in that scenario is you check the universe and you say, okay, there's nothing in there already existing. Therefore, this plugin isn't being used in a chain and is being used by itself. And then what you can do is you can look at the actual file system, because at that point, if the plugin is being used by itself, you can expect that you can say in the how the plugin is set up in its README or whatever in its documentation that, hey, Gov3 has to have been run first. We'll check if it's in a chain, we'll check and make sure in that plugin chain it's been run, and we can verify that by the project file or however in the universe. But if it's used by itself, we're going to expect that certain files already exist on the file system that we can read, right?
For now, what do you think about we tackle that? It's like for phase 2, for the phase 2 plugins, the API implementation, for now, at least we have the limitation where you cannot use the external plugin to do the Golang scaffold, to do the basic scaffold, right? You need to have the project scaffold, then you can use an external plugin to opt in for features on top. Would that address at least the first problem? And then, of course, I think we need to work in the chain, right? How we change the API to address the need.
Yeah,
Or
I think that that's really what we need to focus on first, actually, is just like determining how we want it to, the external plugins to pull in that universe, right? Because like you could do, like we said, the plugin chain, if the external plugin is being used in a chain of plugins, it's populated with that. But if it's not being used in a chain, do we populate that universe by reading the current file system, like the current directory? Do we say that that's on the external plugin? Like there's a few conversations and decisions that I think we need to make and take away from this. I don't know if there's necessarily a way that we can say right now, this is the way forward, let's do that. But I think it would be very much so worth creating an issue in Kubebuilder specifically for discussion.
Fine. Okay, I try to just track it here. I think yes. One thing. So I think can we create a specific issue with the scenario, like what you are trying to do and the expected behavior and what you are seeing? Is that possible, Maggie? Can you
Yes.
create? That is great.
Yes, I can do that.
The other thing, just for you be unblocked and move forward with the work of the external plugin, could you try to read the project file and take the decision and make a note that the declarative one can only be used after the project be scaffolded with Kubebuilder?
Yes, I can look into that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the person needs to create the project and then can use the plugin, cannot use the Kubebuilder init plugins and then pass the declarative one, just for unblock you. And if you don't find, if he's empty, I think you can consider like a default behavior, Gov3 or Gov4. No matter, just for you be able to move as a standalone as well, like just for you be able to test until we discuss and address the needs in the API. Just to unblock you. I'm trying to find a way for you. Don't be blocked.
Yes, that makes sense. I will do that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and the second, I think that solved the problem, right? Have another problem that you need to be unblocked as well?
No, that would be all. Thank you.
Okay. So that is great. You are unblocked. That is great. We achieved our goal. I really thank you for your help. That is amazing that you got this to do, right? Jonathan as well, you'll be very happy with this implementation for sure. Anybody would like to put any other input about this one? No, silence, and you move forward. The next one, it's me. I put this one here, right? That is very I just would like to share the idea. The idea would be try to ensure the quality of the projects with a Go linked, right? We Golang CI linked. We use that in Kubebuilder. We check everything that we implement in the Kubebuilder with Golang CI. We don't want to put that in the full scaffold because it's in the past, because it's a third-party API, but we have people that ask why the default scaffold doesn't check, because the default scaffold can have issues that it doesn't pass in the default checks, right? But Science is a third-party API, and we have the goal to try to minimize the dependence to make it easier to keep maintaining and everything that was not accepted in the past. So one thing that I'd like to propose is, if someone would like to work on this one, if everybody is okay with that, the agreement that we had in the past was, okay, we cannot put in the scaffold, in the full scaffold, in the process that are done by the tool, but we could, in our CI, link the code that we generate with the tool. So we could ensure that what Kubebuilder produces is actually linked and will pass in the common, in the default checks, right? Don't need all checks, only the default ones would be great to avoid. Is that make sense? Could I share properly the idea? Hello? I assume the silence is yes. Okay, so I just would like to share this one here. Has someone any objection if we try to address this in the CI as we agreed in the past?
So are you suggesting that we are going to scaffolding the configuration of CI to help linking the scaffolded project?
The idea would be like, for example, I will show for you, right? When when you push a pull request, like this one, no matter, we would have another check here that would link the test data samples, for example. If we find an error, then we will fail in the CI. So you know that the projects that we are producing with Kubebuilder is not passing in the linter. So you would be able to fix in order to get to the PR, the change merged, right? Like all that would be produced with the tool, the final result, you would pass in the link, but we would not add a new makefile target like these ones to add the link, to add the go link link, as we have in our makefile, right? Like to maintain the project. The reason is that because it's a third-party API, and in the past was discussed and decided that it would be better not to add more dependence in the project.
So I don't have any objections to doing this plugin, but one thing I'll raise is kind of like a concern for maintainability
No, it's
purposes
not a
is
plugin. It's just a CI, not a plugin. Nothing that someone can use. It's only a check for we ensure that the code that we deliver can be linked. So, for example, one example of the implementation in the tests in the CI, we could just insert here a target, right? And then call in the CI to do the check. But we would not deliver this new target for end user. And we would also not provide any feature like for someone about that. If someone wants, just go there and add a target in their makefile. I think it makes no sense we have a plugin just for a target, right?
gotcha. So this whole thing is for actually the Kubebuilder project itself, right? And nothing for end users. Gotcha.
Yes, for the project, ensure that when someone like, because for example, today, if I go here, right, I take the tool and I build the project. Then I came here in the making file and I add a new target to start to use the link to check the result, right? The project will fail in basic things, in the default checks. So if we have a CI job that prior we merge a change in the scaffolds, we check the result to see if he always passing in the goal link, the result that the tool provides would be validated, would pass successfully in the goal link checks. But it is not a goal. Add the making file target in the projects or create a plugin just to do making file target. It's just a CI. The only thing that you would implement is a CI to ensure the quality about what the tool produces for the end user.
Gotcha.
So this is like, we won't modify the scaffold of the makefile, but rather just we modify the CI for the Kubebuilder itself, say, have another Java stage and just try to run like Golang CI link and check if the test data works for, or like respect our CI policies.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you,
Okay.
Tony, for translating my my idea. Really, thank you. Exactly that. Is
Okay,
everybody
yeah.
okay with that?
So like, why not just adding a command to the makefile, to the generated makefile?
Because that would mean in the scaffold, we started to add a new making file target using the Golang CI link, right? Golang CI link is a third-party API. It's another project.
The reason I'm saying that is because that's exactly what I did in my project. I just added a new target to the makefile, and like that's relatively easy, and that's also a relatively small contribution.
Yes, we can do that to do the tests. The problem to add in the scaffold is because how much more dependence do you have, more hard it is for we keep the project maintained. And that is a third party, right? So ideally, we'd like to avoid having third parties because, okay, that is, I agree with you that it is the common usage, right? But probably if you look in the internet, you'll find many other projects that has the same purpose. So if the user wants to use another third-party API, then you have like 2, 3, 4, 5 making file targets, one for each third-party API. So it starts to be too much opinionated.
So, but like the way I see it is exactly as the opposite. Like when we integrate the Golang CI linter to our tool chain, we basically are bringing to our tool another dependency and another responsibility, rather than like the way the makefile work is that if you don't call the lint target, then it's not downloading the linter.
No,
and
but
downloading, but that's how it works for any other third-party executable.
But that is different because that is for the CLI. Only us work with the CLI. For example, you can introduce any breaking chains in the CLI. That doesn't matter. What matters is we impact the end users. Like, for example, if you want to change anything in Kubebuilder, that is a break change, but not impact someone that is consuming the API or is consuming the projects that are built with Kubebuilder, that is fine. So also in the Kubebuilder, you see, like, we check with that because we decide that you adopt this project to link to our code, right? But if someone uses the Kubebuilder to create their project, they can choose what third party they would like to, to do the same. It's not the only solution.
Sorry, I just don't agree with you because I don't think it's the Kubebuilder CLI responsibility to do the linting. If you want a linter, you should download the linter. if we want to increase the quality of the projects, then we can recommend or add to the makefile an optional linter, but it shouldn't be the responsibility of the Kubebuilder CLI. That's the way I see it.
Then we have 2 points to see that, right? That is not a point of responsibility. It's like a point. Would we like that the Kubebuilder bring a final result for the users that pass in the link that is good enough? Would you like, as a maintainers, be advised if we did something, the scaffold that has a variable that is unused? For example, we scroll up with something and be advised in the CI before we deliver and merge that change. Would you like to have more cover better what we deliver for the users? That is the point. Go forward, Michael.
If I'm understanding correct, I think Alma, you are talking about something different than what Camila is suggesting. She's basically just suggesting that the code inside, like the Kubebuilder repo, is all linted, not that we help lint, like not that anyone downloading the Kubebuilder binary would lint or anything like that.
The code that is inside of the Kubebuilder project is linked, but Kubebuilder exactly you produce a code, right? This end result is not linked at all. So, for example, we can go there and do a pull request and put a in the template, we put because it's a constant, it's a big string, we put a variable that is unused, right? Then the only way for we get that is in the review. If you pay attention and see, oops, this variable is not used in any place. If we was able in the CI check that automatically, we would have the error and you would avoid our errors, our mistakes to deliver the project for the end user, right?
So Camila, just to make sure I understand, you are talking about having the linter for the test data?
Yeah, for the CI, we could, for example.
All right.
Yeah, we could, for example,
just
we could like create a shell script that go there or a Golang, no matter how we can, what be easier, right? Just inject, as you say, the making file target here and call the check and validating the CI. If it fails, we will know beforehand and before we merge the API with something that would be not nice.
So that should be relatively easy, right? It's like just adding another Git workflow.
Yeah, it's just another check. Yeah, another test. It's not hard to do.
Sounds good to me.
So let's come back here. So can I put this one like, unless someone has an objection, we can discuss or we can leave it for another day. I think we have only 14 minutes and it has another item in the agenda. Can I put accepted, triage accepted this one?
Yep.
Triage accept. I'll put a good first issue as well. I think it's a good first and help you wanted.
Yeah.
Unless.
Can you, is that written there that we are talking about the test data? Because that's not how I understood it at first glance.
Yes, this is the task. If it is not clear the text here, I can put it. I'll add a comment to facilitate.
Scaffolded data is like scaffolded data for end users and not for our test data code. That's how I understood it.
Varsha is amazing, and I'll add to put a comment here to clarify, right?
You're the best.
Jeez. Really, thank you, folks. I think the next one is Shirley. Shirley's here. Or Varsha.
Yeah, I can speak on behalf of Shirley. It is too late for Shirley. She's based on European time zone. So I just wanted to bring up one of the polls created by her. She's from the OpenShift monitoring team, and we had prior discussion on this on an issue on whether to accept the monitoring plugin as a part of Kubebuilder phase 1.5. But then we discussed, we came to a conclusion that it would be better off being an external plugin. So she has created a poll in the Slack asking if users would benefit from a monitoring plugin which has all the best practices as specified in one of the operator SDK docs. So I just wanted to bring this up on behalf of her and ask the community to take a look at that message, probably give your thoughts give your thoughts on that, check if you guys are comfortable with it, whether it will be useful for you all, or whether you think it's not useful at all, we need something else, and then the team can work on accommodating that. So yep, please do take a look whenever you all have time, and feel free to add your comments or thoughts in the Slack.
I think she put in the message, she didn't put the sample, right? I think it would be the sample that she made there, or has only the documents.
She had also made the sample on that, but then for the external plugin, we just didn't want to go according to what was existing. So we just wanted to get the thought in general about how about a plugin which has all the best practices which are here. And then we can work on a discussion on whether to have a library or whether to call it as a scaffolding on the plugin and all the implementation details. But the general idea is to get all of your opinion on how comfortable would you all be in having an external plugin which follows the best practices.
I think the idea is like, let me know if I'm wrong. For you folks, look her ideas, her proposals in this document, see, if I had a plugin to do what is described in this document, on top of my project, would that be helpful for me or not? How much
Yes.
helpful would it be
Yes,
or not?
that sounds amazing.
And then I think you can go here. Let me know if I'm wrong. Operator frame, operator SDK. I think he's here, right? I think we have the implementation here, right, Varsha? So I think what the plugin or the scaffold is inside of this monitor. Dear?
Yes, it is inside this particular folder, monitoring, but the idea is to take a look at this and check if all these scaffoldings would be useful to you all. How we will scaffold and the implementation details are totally different, which we'll discuss later.
Okay. So I think that is the idea, right? And if she gets a lot of votes, like I would like to have a plugin, maybe she will decide to spend effort to that or not. I think, or see if others would you like. Go, we have a queue. Sorry, I think the next one, I don't know, is Tony?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So I was actually find this interesting because I remember that previously we have like a pull request discussing about that. And I remember like previously we've been leaning on a page when thinking if ever possible to practice this over an external plugin. And I'm not sure if that works. And I didn't notice that we actually have this monitoring folder in our Operator SDK Go project. So some kind of the things I'm actually not quite sure is how we would really want to bring about to the user. Because like for what we have right here is like, it is more like the monitoring stacks focusing on Prometheus. It's not like a general monitoring plugin that can work for like monitoring practices, regardless of the specific stacks that the different teams would be using on, right? And so even if that is focusing on Prometheus, because like as we consider that Prometheus is very popular, And we can see that in, like, I remember that in a number of different Kubernetes community about other projects, when they're trying to provide some monitoring stuff for their users, they'll rather directly give some mixings that directly give some metrics or prompt cure or like alerts, not necessary to like go over like guidance or documentations or programming. I don't know. So that's some kind of the things when it comes up with the monitoring plugin and was trying to looking on that. And I feel like it's something that is that's something like other than what I originally thinking of. So I saw this poll and I just mark as I vote for. I'm not quite sure if ever there's something that the Kubebuilder will bring about, because I feel like Kubebuilder is a very general tools that like different people will use Kubebuilder to work in like very rich scenarios, and we cannot really like predict like what kind of the scenarios to be using. And so it's rather, I would say, I'm not sure if we really need to focus that specific on Prometheus. Sorry, I say too much.
Can I answer that, Camilla?
Go for it.
Yeah, Tony, you were absolutely right. Kubebuilder is a generic engine and it's a generic project, but that was the whole reason of bringing up a plugin. Plugin is a tool in which users can customize based on their own needs. I completely understand your point of view, but the idea is to make it external so that if Kubebuilder users who are adopting Prometheus would like to add the best practices, they can use this plugin. Someone else could have some other plugin which is based on kube state metrics. It is up to a user to either take a Prometheus, take kube state metrics. I think kube state metrics also uses some kind of Prometheus, but yeah, it is just an availability of an external plugin to let users use it if they need or not. But yes, as you said, having it as a monitoring plugin may not be the right word. Probably the right word would be to use as a Prometheus plugin or a Prometheus best practices plugin, something of that sort. Naming convention is something which we need to be careful of, but we can definitely work towards it. But the idea is to get a feel of, does the community who uses Prometheus actually needs a plugin to follow best practices? Or is it like community already is doing that, they don't need this, so that Shirley and team need not invest time in creating an external plugin for that?
We have Almog is next. So just you can go, Almog, and I'll be in the queue. Go for it.
I just have a very silly question. I'm trying to understand the relationship between the operator repository, the operator SDK repository, and the Kubebuilder. Like, why some stuff we have something similar with Kubebuilder with the dashboard? So when like some stuff are being implemented there, and and why don't we merge these two projects? What's going on? Like, I'm a little bit confused.
I can answer that for you. Kubebuilder is a lib. Operator SDK uses Kubebuilder as a lib. So Operator SDK actually imports Kubebuilder and do the same scaffolds. However, Operator SDK has the goal to add helpers on top, mainly with the purpose to integrate the project with their solutions inside of the operator framework, like Operator Lifecycle Manage, for you distribute for example, OpenShift. OpenShift uses Operator Lifecycle Manage. Also, Operator SDK allows people create projects using Ansible and Helm, and that is not a desire for Kubebuilder. But Kubebuilder provides all base for they create on top and allow these achievements. Is that okay?
So the part of the Helm charts and the other option, I forgot, it makes sense. I just don't like, what's the reason that the OLM is not part of Kubebuilder as optional plugin, like other optional plugins? Like, Is that a politic
I
reason?
think it would be very, very welcome, like a plugin for operator lifecycle manager to add the helpers. I don't have any objection to that. I think just raise a proposal. That is a
But
good point,
like,
right?
like
For
for
version.
me, the reason I'm saying that is for me as a user, that's a little bit confusing. Like, I don't know, maybe there are politics involved and it's totally okay. Like, but if I could have used this plugin just as is from the Kubebuilder, it would make a lot of sense to me as a user.
Helm and Ansible, I don't think we would add it to Kubebuilder.
Yeah, not
right?
the Helm and Ansible, but like the OLM and scorecard. Like,
But yeah, I think
sounds like good solutions.
I think, for example, a helper for operator lifecycle management could be a plugin in Kubebuilder. Why not something to opt in, opt out, right? We have if that be also a design from the maintenance of the operator SDK. I don't see why not. I think we need to do a proposal, check the pros and the cons, like how that should be, and if that can be maintained, and like move forward the process as anything any other thing else. Indeed, if you as a user would like to have a plugin inside of Kubebuilder that instead of use operator CDK, give it as a helper, creating an issue, and then we'll try to discuss, right? I think that is the point. They're going to discuss what is the point, what is the cons, or what is the pros. Like if you want to integrate your operator lifecycle manager, would you better use a Kubebuilder or would you better use a SDK? If you create a plugin in Kubebuilder, could SDK just import that as well and be responsible to maintain Kubebuilder? So all these discussions need to go forward, right? And you take a decision like in the community. But I think always fine. Has no objections. I think of nobody. At least not that I'm aware of. Is that make sense? Could I answer the questions? Varsha, Bryce, do you have anything to say?
That makes
We
sense.
crossed the time.
Yeah, nothing else from my end. Camilla covered it all. There's a lot more work going on the OLM side of things, but yeah, having it as a plugin, having it support as a plugin makes sense.
I think it's something like a helper maybe is very nice, right? For operator framework, maybe, I don't know. It's something to think about, maybe like if I'm Kubebuilder user and I want to use this plugin just to choose operator lifecycle manager and I don't know, maybe it's some good idea at least, shows something to think about. Okay, really thank you, folks. I also try to put in the agenda the links about the discussion that we have about the plugin. So I totally agree with Tony. I have some concerns as well in the proposal made in the past. I don't know if that changed. Has few things that, in my humble opinion, would fit better in a library in Prometheus project, not in Kubebuilder or SDK. I don't know. But I try to put all information that we have about this subject so far, and please feel free, if that is from your interest, to check and vote and give your thoughts as well. Thank you. Let's call this a week. Thank you for your attendance and really thank you for all collaboration. The meeting was great. Your input is very valuable.
Thank you, Camilla.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, folks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.